Welcome. This is the Committee on Labor, Culture, and the Arts. Today is Friday, February 11th, 2022. This is for our 3:15 p.m. hearing. It's almost 3:30 right now, and we are in conference room, well, I am in conference room 225. We have a number of bills this afternoon. We'll begin with housekeeping announcements. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event that we have to abruptly end this hearing due to technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business at 3 p.m. on Monday, February 14th in room 225. A public notice will be posted on the legislature's website if that's the case. Okay, so we'll begin with Senate Bill 2703. This is relating to collective bargaining. It retains institutional health and correctional workers except for the adult corrections officers of the Department of Public Safety's Corrections Division under Bargaining Unit 10. Creates a separate Bargaining Unit 16 for ACOs of the Department of Public Safety's Corrections Division. First up, we have Riker Wada, Office of Collective Bargaining.
Hi, aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Riker Wada, for this particular measure, I'm appearing as Chief Negotiator for the Office of Collective Bargaining. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and good afternoon. Really, in short, the Office of Collective Bargaining is respectfully testifying in opposition to this particular measure. Really, you have our testimony in front of you, and so I'll just very briefly summarize. The establishment of another bargaining unit would definitely and materially impact the Office of Collective Bargaining's ability to responsibly fulfill their duties in terms of negotiating contracts and moving forward. We also do have concerns that the continued creation of new bargaining units will continue to have what we call a whipsaw effect, which basically means other disparate groups within the state employee pool, or I should say the government civil service pool, will want their own bargaining units as well. The problem with this is that it does increase the work for the Office of Collective Bargaining in terms of the costs and complexities related to establishing, negotiating, arbitrating, and managing the contracts for our differing bargaining units. For the committee's information, effectively, historically, the Office of Collective Bargaining, which is an office that's connected to the governor's office, had a full staff. Up until around the Cayetano Lingo administration, the Office of Collective Bargaining was a fully staffed office of up to about 12 individuals, 12 staff. Currently, the Office of Collective Bargaining has one position that's unfunded, which is the Chief Negotiator, which currently myself as the Director of DHERD sits in. And so we leverage DHERD's labor relations staff to be able to do not only their labor relations work, but the Office of Collective Bargaining work as well. So again, what we're asking is that, this bill be held just because we wouldn't, the more bargaining units we have, the less able we're going to be able to do the work. Alternately, if the committee so chooses to move this measure forward, we would ask that instead that you also amend the measure to include staff and cost for the Office of Collective Bargaining to be able to handle this particular bargaining unit. And also that the measure be, effective date be delayed until those staff are on board. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Next we have Kalani Warner, State Director-elect, DPW, I believe. Okay, there he is.
Hello and good afternoon, Chair Taniguchi, Vice Chair Ihara, members of the committee. My name is Kalani Warner. I'm the State Director-elect for the United Public Workers Local 646. However, today I'm speaking as my individual capacity as an adult correction officer from OCCC. I have over 20 years of experience in both supervisory and non-supervisory roles. I've also been fortunate enough to be a part of the union's executive negotiation committee for bargaining unit 10. You have my written testimony there, but I would just like to highlight a couple points on how I feel it's important to hear this bill regarding the proposals to create a new bargaining unit for the adult correctional officers. I have the uttermost respect for all of my brothers and sisters in our union, especially within bargaining unit 10. But I feel the working conditions and the job responsibilities and the work settings for ACOs warrants the considerations for a new bargaining unit. Bringing a new bargaining unit could potentially provide ACOs the opportunity to better negotiate future contracts that can address working conditions and safety concerns for ACOs across the states in each unit, so that all of us can just address all our safety concerns. This is not really just for the ACOs themselves. By separating and creating this new bargaining unit, our medical profession that's going to be in bargaining unit 10 can actually address their concerns, because both job descriptions are so different from each other. I thank you for your time and the opportunity to provide testimony, and I'll still be here to address any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have Dan Kochi from the United Public Workers.
Good afternoon, Chair Taniguchi, Vice Chair Ihara, members of the committee. Dan Kochi, and I am representing UPW in my capacity as Government Affairs Officer. Thank you again for the opportunity to have this discussion. You do have my written testimony as well, but I do want to just mention one quick thing that was in it for the committee. UPW did collect input from our ACO members about SB 2703, and a majority of the respondents did say that they supported the bill. Many of the responses we got in support of this legislation mentioned hopes that a new bargaining unit would help to simplify and address the concerns and needs of the adult correctional officers. Thank you again for the committee for hearing this bill and allowing us the discussion. And just again, also respecting the testimony of Mr. Wada, UPW definitely does hope that regardless that we can continue to have dialogue between the union as well as his office as well to see how this topic could continue on in discussion. So thank you again for the opportunity to testify. I'm also happy to answer any questions, but I may also defer to Mr. Warner, given his capacity as an adult correctional officer as well.
Thank you, Dan. That's the testifiers that we have. We also received comments from Budget and Finance Director Craig Hirai. So at this point, do you have any questions from members on this bill? Question? Okay. Thank you. Then we'll proceed to Senate Bill 2705. This is relating to public employee compensation. It establishes the Public Employees Compensation Appeals Board to hear appeals requesting the repricing of a class. It also appropriates money. We have Riker Wada from DHERT, Director.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, member of the committee. Riker Wada. I'm wearing my second hat for this second testimony. I'm appearing as the Director for the Department of Human Resources Development. For both hats, by the way, just publicly, I did want to say congratulations to Mr. Warner, who's on the call. So again, you guys have our testimony. Really, this is a follow-up measure, and this is something that came up last session as well. Because of that, I'm not going to go into this too much, but effectively, the department is respectfully opposing this. In the year 2000, Act 253 was passed, and it reformed existing public employment laws and provided a comprehensive, responsive body of law to bring about a more efficient and effective means of providing government services to the people. In this redo of civil service law, basically there were two different ways that our public sector unions were able to work on something like repricing. First was through the Merit Appeals Board, and secondly through negotiations, through collective bargaining. So the measure here would actually, in our view, give our unions a third bite of the apple in terms of trying to reprice particular bargaining units. I will be happy to answer any questions for the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Riker. Next, we have HGA, Michelle Kurihara-Klein.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair, members of the committee. Michelle Kurihara-Klein on behalf of the Hawaii Government Employees Association and our Executive Director, Randy Pereira. You have our written testimony on this measure before you that is in strong support of the reestablishment of the PCAB. For us, honestly, the high vacancy rates, the high turnover, and the use, if not misuse, of shortage differentials in government clearly shows that there's a problem in terms of filling and maintaining employees at their jobs. And so I think that we all recognize that there are problems. This is one way where we thought it would be appropriate to start the conversation to see if employees are truly, if they're truly compensated at the right level. And we would be happy to have additional conversation with stakeholders to try to address these larger problems. And instead of just sitting on the sidelines and waiting for solutions, we're proffering this as one viable alternative. So I would be, as Director Wada did testify, we did propose this legislation in the past. It was in 2020 during the pandemic year. And unfortunately, we didn't get to have a lot of robust discussion about how to address some of these systemic problems. But I would be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have about this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. See, next we have Dan Kochi, United Public Workers.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair Ihara, members of the committee. Dan Kochi again with United Public Workers. We'll stand on our written testimony in support of this bill as well, echoing Michelle from HGA's testimony, and also would be more than happy to have these discussions as well. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. We also have testimony in the form of comments from Budget and Finance Director Craig Hirai. We have comments from the City and County of Honolulu, Director Nola Miyasaki. We have testimony in opposition from Wayland Leopoldino, Acting Director for the Department of Human Resources for the County of Hawaii. So we have those additional testimonies. Okay, that was all the testifiers. Do we have questions from members? Questions? Okay. Okay, thank you. We'll proceed to the next bill, Senate Bill 2707. This is relating to collective bargaining. This requires the, here's another repricing bill. Another repricing bill. So first up, we have D. Hurd, Director Wada.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. This is another bill that deals with repricing. One of the things we did want to point out to the committee is there is a timeline associated with this particular measure where a decision would have to be made within 90 days. And if not, this would be sent to an arbitration process via impasse. The department does have serious concerns about this particular provision where the way arbitration works is effectively there's one employer panel member, there is one union panel member, and then there's a third party neutral who is selected by the parties. We are concerned that if there was someone here who is not knowledgeable about repricing, that the effects will be exponentially damaging. The reason being is that class pricing, classification pricing, position pricing, all of our classes are all related. And so if you reprice one class independently of other classes, it's going to have a domino effect for all the other related classes. And then those classes would have to be repriced, and then we would have a domino effect for those as well. So there's also the possibility that if multiple classes look to get repriced and all go to arbitration at the same time, there could be a very widespread differentiation in repricing among our classes. So again, we respectfully oppose this measure. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Riker. We also have Dan Kochi, United Public Workers.
Good afternoon once again, Chair Taniguchi, Vice Chair Ihara, members of the committee. Dan Kochi with United Public Workers. We'll stand on our written testimony in support of this bill and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We also have testimony from Craig Hirai, comments from the Director of Budget and Finance, from again Nola Miyasaki from the City and County of Honolulu, from Waylon Leopoldino from the County of Hawaii, and I believe just written comments of support from HGA. Oh, sorry.
Hi, Chair. I apologize. I wasn't unable to file our written testimony timely to be able to have the option to orally testify, but I would thank you for the opportunity. So Michelle Kurihara Klein on behalf of the Hawaii Government Employees Association, we do strongly support this measure as well. And again, we feel very strongly that this would be an additional tool in the toolbox in looking at employee compensation. So again, I want to reiterate and stress the point that very clearly there are problems in government and government service, whether it's the ability to create a competitive package or to retain employees to stay. There's a very high cost of living in Hawaii, as we all acknowledge. And again, this is one suggestion and one viable option, something that we think is very creative and clever, cleverly construed as a means to address some of these root systemic issues. And we're hopeful, again, that the stakeholders will want to be a part of the solution, because a shortage in the workforce affects all of us, inclusive of HR and DHERD, as well as our members that we represent, as there are gaps within their workforces. And so this will benefit, I think, all of state government to be able to appropriately price employees to ensure that they have competitive salaries. So again, we are utilizing these two measures to proffer solutions to longstanding problems, and respectfully request your and the committee's consideration to move these issues forward for additional conversation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Michelle. I think that's it for the testifiers. Do you have any questions from members? Questions? Not. Thank you. We'll proceed to the last bill. This is Senate Bill 2138 relating to state employees. This adds a definition of intern to statutes governing the standards of conduct for state employees for the purpose of subjecting interns to those standards. Testimony, we have our newly minted Executive Director of the Ethics Commission, Mr. Harris, Robert Harris.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair. The shine is still on. Thank you. I would like to offer our support for this bill. We believe it codifies the existing State Ethics Commission's decisions on interpreting the applicability of the State Ethics Code to interns, and by codifying it, probably make it more obvious and more aware, particularly for new interns coming into the state system. We do flag one proposed amendment. There is a blank on how many days that the intern is allowed to be working to still fall under the definition of intern. We're worried that if we simply fill in a number there, anyone who works longer now no longer is considered an intern for purposes of this bill. And so either dropping that language entirely or simply stating that nobody can work more than a certain period of time, and no intern can work more than a certain amount of time for the state. We did suggest 180 days because after that, the post-employment restrictions do kick in. But again, either solution, we don't want to create a legal limbo where somebody works more than that period of time and we don't really know how to treat them. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Robert. He was the only testifier on this bill. Do you have questions from members? Questions? Okay, if not, we will recess the public hearing and go into our breakout room to discuss some of the bills, and then come back for decision making. Welcome back. This is the Committee on Labor, Culture, and the Arts, and we will be in decision making for the 4 bills that we just heard. We'll begin with Senate Bill 2703 relating to collective bargaining. This is the one that creates a separate bargaining unit for adult corrections officers. I guess I think it is a concern. I'm hoping that that the department as well as UPW can kind of keep discussions on this going. At this point, it may be kind of premature to move this bill ahead. So Chair's going to recommend we defer on this bill. Okay, any objections? Not, thank you. Senate Bill 2705 and actually 27, this is the PCAB bill, and 2707 relating to repricing. Both of them trying to deal with the issue of repricing. Chair's going to defer on Senate Bill 2705 and proceed with, I guess, 2707. And so recommend that we pass this bill as is. Any discussion? If not, Senator Ihara.
We're voting, members of the Labor, Culture, and Arts Committee, we're voting on the chair's recommendation to pass Senate Bill 2707 unamended. Chair Taniguchi,
Aye.
Vice Chair votes with reservations. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator Kyo Koloi.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much, members. Senate Bill 2138 relating to state employees. This is adding the definition of intern. We'll make some clarifying amendments as well as any technical non-substantive amendments. We'll take the recommendation of the Ethics Commission to Ethics Commission Director to make this 180 days. Okay, any discussion? If not, Senator Ihara.
For Labor Committee members, any reservations or objections to the chair's recommendation to pass Senate Bill 2138 with amendments? Hearing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. We'll recess.